For 10 long years, Beck Jinwoo lived for only one thing, the Battle of Summoners. While the rest of the world saw it as a dead trash game, he became the living legend known as Ginugod. On the day he finally cleared the impossible 100th floor, the world he knew shattered into pieces. Monsters began crawling out of the darkness and Jinwoo lost consciousness as chaos rained down. When he finally opened his eyes in a hospital bed, 3 years had already passed. The game was now reality, with dungeons and summons becoming a part of everyday life. Jinwoo realized he had only one choice, to rise again and become the strongest. Returning home, he accepted a tutorial quest that granted him 2 low-grade summoning scrolls. He knew the drop rates were notorious, with only a tiny chance for anything above F rank. But as he tore the first scroll, a magic circle erupted with a blinding X rank light. From the light emerged a wind fairy, a rank that shouldn't even exist in the new world. The fairy, Ramba, recognized him immediately, lunging forward to hug her old master. She had been locked away in quarantine by the game developers before the world changed. Jinwoo realized he was the only one who could pull these isolated X-rank summons. His second scroll yielded a simple F-rank hairy gorilla, proving the X-rank drop was pure luck. Suddenly, the ground shook as a tutorial dungeon manifested right before his eyes. Though the world had changed, Jinwoo knew he had cleared similar stages thousands of times. Inside the dungeon, a starving gray wolf emerged from the shadows to challenge him. He ordered the gorilla to charge, but its slow movements were no match for the beast. Sensing the danger, he commanded Ramba to use her god-tier attack speed boost. The gorilla transformed into a blur of motion, striking the wolf with incredible force. With a final barrage of blows, the dungeon boss was defeated, securing Jinwoo's survival. After the battle, Jinwoo met his sister Ajin, who had become a successful rune farmer. She explained how player zones and registration had become essential for entering dungeons. Ajin bragged about her C-rank shadow elf, unaware that her brother controlled far greater power. Jinwoo kept Ramba hidden, realizing that a talking summon would cause an absolute sensation. He needed capital to start his climb and promised his mother he would lift the family up. He purchased more low-grade scrolls, hoping to beat the odds once again. He pulled an E-rank poison lizard, adding a useful utility unit to his growing team. However, he soon learned that new laws prevented unregistered players from entering dungeons. Undeterred, he headed to the association to apply for his player qualification. Suddenly, the building was attacked by a gang using high-level orc summons. Assemblyman Park Chongguk stepped forward to defend the civilians, but his summons were struggling. Jinwoo noticed the enemy was using a fire resistance buff and whispered the solution to Chongguk. Following the tip, Chongguk obliterated the gang's summons and ended the threat instantly. Chongguk was stunned by the unregistered youth's insight and promised him a reward. Jinwoo declined a corporate job, opting for cash to fund his search for more X-rank summons. During his practical exam, he decided to show the world a glimpse of his true speed. He cleared the Tuesday dungeon in a staggering 5 minutes, shattering the national record. The officials were in shock, realizing a new monster had entered the world ranking. Beck Jinwoo stood before the massive gates of the Player Association building while holding his registration documents tightly. The lobby was crowded with aspiring hunters and seasoned veterans whispering about the latest dungeon outbreaks. He walked toward the assessment counter where a high-precision mana crystal sat glowing with a faint blue light. Jinwoo placed his hand on the cold surface of the crystal to begin the ranking measurement. Instead of a standard surge, the mana flowed into the device with a calculated and hidden rhythm. He suppressed his true power levels to appear as a high-tier gold rank rather than the world-shaking anomaly he truly was. An official handed him his new identification card, which shimmered with a professional holographic finish. With his status secured, Jinwoo headed to a private VIP room where a powerful figure was already waiting. Assemblyman Park Chongguk sat behind a mahogany desk, his eyes narrowing as the young man entered. Jinwoo didn't bother with pleasantries and threw a data drive onto the table with a loud thud. The drive contained evidence of illegal dungeon smuggling that could ruin the assemblyman's career in an instant. Instead of blackmailing for money, Jinwoo demanded exclusive entry rights to the most restricted dungeons in the country. Park Chongguk realized he had no choice but to accept the terms of this terrifyingly prepared youth. A secret contract was signed, giving Jinwoo a political shield and the keys to his future growth. Later that afternoon, Jin Woo stood at the entrance of a grade-A dungeon that had remained uncleared for months. He snapped his fingers and the tiny wind fairy Ramba appeared in a swirl of emerald leaves. Ramba giggled and flew into the portal first, leaving a trail of sparkling mana behind her. Inside the dungeon, the environment shifted into a labyrinth of sharp obsidian crystals and freezing winds. A pack of crystalline wolves lunged from the shadows with their jaws open wide. Jin Woo didn't even draw a weapon, simply pointing his finger toward the charging monsters. Ramba unleashed a focused yell that shredded the wolves into dust before they could even bark. Jin Woo moved through the dungeon at a speed that would baffle any professional scouting team. He used his knowledge of the game's original bugs to find hidden paths through the cavern walls. A secret boss room opened up, revealing a massive ice golem standing 30 feet tall. This was the perfect opportunity for Jin Woo to test his efficiency and break the clearing record. Ramba buffed Jin Woo's speed, wrapping his legs in swirling green currents of high-frequency wind. He dashed forward, appearing as nothing more than a streak of green light against the icy floor. With a single precise strike to the golem's core, the entire icy structure began to shatter. The boss exploded into 1,000 fragments, leaving behind a rare mana crystal and a new world record. Outside the dungeon, the ranking board suddenly flickered and updated with a new time of 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Nearby hunters gasped as the previous record of 2 hours was completely obliterated by an unknown player. High above in a luxury penthouse, a woman watched the news with intense interest. Jia, the heiress to the world-renowned TK group, swiped through Jin Woo's blurry dungeon exit footage. She recognized that the young man wasn't using standard skills or gear from any known guild. Jia picked up her phone and ordered her assistants to track down every detail about this mysterious gold-rank player. Meanwhile, Jin Woo was already entering his third dungeon of the day, ignoring the growing fame. He needed more mana stones to unlock the next X-rank summon from his inventory. One by one, the national dungeon records began to fall as Jin Woo's name climbed the leaderboards. His rapid ascent started to stir the shadows of the corporate world, threatening the established power balance. As he finished his final raid, a sleek black limousine pulled up right in front of the dungeon exit. The window rolled down slowly to reveal Jia's piercing gaze fixed directly on Jin Woo. She didn't offer a greeting, but instead held out a contract that would change the course of his career. Jin Woo looked at the document and saw a proposal for a joint talent agency that gave him absolute freedom. Before he could answer, the sky above the city suddenly turned blood red, signaling a catastrophic event. A massive system message appeared in the air, announcing the arrival of an S-rank world boss right in the heart of Seoul. Jin Woo realized his peaceful leveling period had just come to a violent and premature end. Jia looked at him and asked if he was truly ready to show the world his secret strength. Jin Woo simply reached into his inventory and grasped the hilt of a weapon no one had ever seen before. He stepped toward the center of the city as the ground began to tremble under the weight of the coming disaster. High above, a massive shadow began to descend from the red clouds, dwarfing the skyscrapers below. The massive shadow from the red clouds finally touched the pavement, revealing a rift of unprecedented scale. Beck Jin Woo stood firmly against the gale force winds, his eyes reflecting the flickering energy of the portal. Beside him, Jia gripped her weapon tightly, her eyes darting between the rift and Jin Woo's stoic face. Jin Woo turned to the heiress and proposed a formal partnership that would change the global ranking hierarchy. He explained that they needed more than just a party. They needed a dedicated talent agency to manage the world's strongest. Jia realized that Jin Woo wasn't just looking to survive, but to monopolize the entire dungeon industry. She nodded her approval, sealing the deal with a firm handshake as the first monsters emerged from the gate. Jin Woo immediately accessed his hidden developer menu to prepare for a mass summoning ritual. He selected the Forbidden X-rank card, spending the massive gold reserves he had accumulated from previous clears. A heavy metallic clanging echoed across the pavement as a massive suit of sentient armor materialized. Hunkyo slammed his shield down, creating a shockwave that sent the encroaching monsters flying backward. Ramba fluttered around the giant warrior, her tiny wings leaving trails of green magical dust in the air. But the summoning was not yet complete, as the temperature in the area began to rise to lethal levels. A whirlpool of fire erupted next to Jin Woo, coalescing into the form of the Blast Dragon Mage. The Dragon Mage bowed deeply to Jin Woo, acknowledging the mortal who held the bugged X-rank contract. Jin Woo pointed his finger toward the boss monster emerging from the rift, a three-headed chimera of obsidian. Without a word, the blast Dragon Mage unleashed a torrent of white-hot flames that incinerated the sky. Hunkyo charged through the fire, his spear piercing through the heart of the monster with surgical precision. Watching from the sidelines, the government's elite hunters could only stare in disbelief at the raw power on display. In less than 10 minutes, the national-level emergency was resolved by a single man and his summons. News of the Ginugod agency spread like wildfire across every social media platform in the country. Jin Woo met with Assemblyman Park Chung-guk in a high-rise office to finalize the agency's legal exemptions. The Assemblyman realized he could no longer control Jin Woo, but he could at least profit from his shadow. For the next month, Jin Woo led his team through a systematic purge of every high-ranked dungeon in the region. Every monster encountered was treated as a mere training exercise for the X-rank summons. Jin Woo monitored their levels, ensuring that his own stats reached the threshold required for the final class advancement. Jia's combat skills also improved drastically under the tutelage of the legendary drill instructor Hunkyo. The agency grew from a two-person team into a powerhouse that rivaled the government's own hunter association. However, a secret cabal of international guild leaders began to view Jin Woo's monopoly as a threat to their interests. Jin Woo anticipated their move, knowing that the trash game mechanics he mastered included political sabotage. He decided to host a public demonstration of his power by solo clearing the world's first SSS rank gate. Thousands of cameras from around the globe focused on the small figure standing before the abyss. Jin Woo snapped his fingers, and his 3 X-rank elites appeared in a burst of synchronized energy. They entered the gate, and the world held its breath as the broadcast signal flickered with intense static. Inside the dungeon was a nightmare landscape of shifting gravity and ancient godlike entities. The Blast Dragon Mage unleashed a supernova-level spell that cleared entire legions of cosmic demons. Hunkyo blocked a strike from a celestial giant, his shield glowing with the unbreakable power of the bugged game code. Ramba provided a continuous stream of mana to Jin Woo, ensuring he never ran out of resources during the grueling fight. Jin Woo himself drew a legendary sword made of pure data and struck the final blow against the dungeon core. As the core shattered, the entire dungeon dissolved, returning Jin Woo and his team to the mountain peak. He looked down at his hand, which now pulsated with the power of a true sovereign. Jia ran toward him, a look of pure awe and relief on her face as she saw the gate cleared notification in the sky. Jin Woo addressed the world through the remaining drones, declaring that the era of fear was over. He promised to train a new generation of hunters using the knowledge he had brought back from the trash game. Back at the Ginugod agency, Jin Woo sat at his desk, watching his summons play fight in the lounge. Jia brought him a cup of coffee, sitting on the edge of the desk as they discussed their next peaceful project. The world was no longer a game to survive, but a reality they had successfully reclaimed. Jin Woo closed his eyes for a brief moment, finally feeling the weight of the last 10 years lift from his shoulders. He knew that whatever challenges the future held, reality's strongest summoner would be ready. With a final click of his interface, he turned off the last remaining game notification, choosing to live fully in the present.